Superscope Storyteller presents Samson and Delilah.
Many years after Joshua had led the Israelites into the land of Canaan, the people of Israel came under the cruel power of the Philistines. The Israelites forgot the teachings of Moses and worshipped heathen gods. They were ruled over by the Philistines for nearly 40 years and dreamed of the time when they would once again be free. Among all the children of Israel, there was a man named Manoah who still loved and served God. But he was sad, for he and his wife had no children. One day, an angel of the Lord spoke with Manoah's wife.
Behold, a son will be born to you, and he will dedicate his life to serving the Lord. Your son will begin the deliverance of the Israelites from the Philistines. It is important, however, that you never cut his hair, because it will be the sign of his bond with God. And if it is cut, the bond will be broken.
And so it happened, as the angel had said. Manoah's wife bore a son, and they named him Samson. As the child grew, he developed great strength. His long hair fell about his shoulders, a symbol of his covenant with God. By the time he reached manhood, Samson was the strongest man in the land, and his feats of strength were many. One day, when he and his parents were traveling through the country, a fierce lion leaped in front of the path. But Samson was not afraid. He knew that God was with him.
I will teach this lion of God's strength, and we shall see who is the mightier.
The lion leaped into the air with a mighty roar. Samson caught the great beast in his arms, and they fell to the ground. But the animal was no match for Samson, and he was quickly slain by the powerful Israelite. Soon the news of the great feats of Samson reached the Philistines. They knew that his superhuman strength was a threat to them and tried to destroy him. But they could not equal Samson's might, and he slew many of them. One day, the men of Judah came to Samson's home in the rocks.
Samson, the Philistine army is camped very near here. They have come to capture you and take you to their land.
Then I will do to them as I have before. They can never defeat the power of God.
But Samson, they're our rulers. If you do battle with them, they will be angered at all of our people, and we shall be destroyed. Please let us bind you and take you to them.
Samson did not want to go, but finally agreed to his people's demands. The men of Judah bound him tightly in new rope and led him down the mountain to the awaiting Philistine army. When the army saw him coming, they cheered in triumph.
We have captured Samson at last. Look, he is helpless. Now is our chance to be rid of him forever.
But Samson was not as helpless as the Philistines had thought. For the strength of God was in him, and he broke his bonds as though they were made of straw. Then he picked up the jawbone of an ass he found lying in the dirt beside him.
Now you shall witness the anger of Samson and the power of God.
The Philistine army descended upon Samson, but he struck each man who came near him with the jawbone. Again and again he knocked them down. Finally, 1,000 of the Philistines lay dead before Samson, and the remainder of the army began to flee.
Remember this day, Philistines, for there is no greater power than the Lord's.
Word of the victory spread quickly throughout the land, and Samson was praised for his great courage and strength. The Philistines began to look for other ways to defeat this powerful man who had killed so many of their soldiers. they learned that Samson had fallen in love with a Philistine woman named Delilah. The Philistines decided that if they were ever going to defeat Samson, they would need to know the secret of his great strength. And Delilah was the only one who could help them. One day, several of their leaders paid Delilah a visit.
Delilah, you are a Philistine, and the only person whom Samson trusts. We could make it well worth your while if you were able to find out the secret of his great strength.
The leader brought forth a heavy sack.
All this silver and more will be yours if you'll help us.
Delilah's beauty was equaled only by her wickedness, and it did not take long for her to decide.
Your offer is much too tempting to refuse, and so I will help you. Samson has promised to visit my house tonight. You will hide in the other room until I've discovered his secret. Then you may do with him as you like.
That night, Samson came to Delilah's house, and after they had eaten, he lay down upon the floor as Delilah sat nearby. He was almost asleep when Delilah spoke to him.
Samson, there is something I have been very curious about.
What is that?
Why are you so strong? Is there any way to bind you and tame your powers?
Samson thought it would be fun to tease her and playfully answered,
If I am bound with 7 green willow switches that have not been dried, then I shall be like any other man. Now let me rest, my dear. I am very tired.
When Samson was fast asleep, the Philistines quickly gathered 7 green willow switches, which Delilah used to bind Samson tightly. Then the Philistines returned to their hiding place. When she was sure Samson was safely bound, Delilah called out.
Samson, the Philistines are upon you.
Samson woke up, and the willow bindings broke like paper. Delilah forced a smile.
You were teasing me, weren't you? Really, Samson, the only way we can trust each other is to be truthful. Now, please share your secret with me. And I promise I will not tell a soul.
I can't imagine why you wish to know, Delilah, but if you really insist, I will tell you. All you need to do is bind me with rope that is new and unused. Then I shall be as weak and helpless as any man.
Soon Samson was asleep again, and Delilah found some new rope. She tied Samson tightly so he would not be able to move at all, and then cried out,
Samson, the Philistines are upon you.
Samson quickly sat up, and the ropes burst as easily as string. Delilah managed to hide her anger, and once more asked Samson to reveal his secret. But again, Samson teasingly answered her falsely. This time, Delilah could not cover up her emotions.
How can you say you love me when your heart isn't with me? You have made a mockery out of everything I've said. If you cannot trust me, then we shall never be close.
Very well, Delilah. I must confess that I've been having fun with you. I really didn't think that the secret of my strength was of such importance. But if it pleases you, I will tell you everything.
Samson drowsily revealed to Delilah that if his hair should be cut, the covenant with God would be broken, and his great strength would be taken from him. Then he fell into a deep sleep. Samson slept for some time when he was awakened by Delilah's voice.
Samson, the Philistines are upon you.
Samson jumped to his feet, and the Philistines came out of hiding. He tried to fight them, but they quickly overpowered him. Samson's strength was gone, and he realized that his hair had been cut. Delilah had betrayed him. She stood nearby, counting the silver coins from the large bag of reward money.
I was beginning to think I would never see this money, Samson. But you were foolish enough to believe my little act, and now you will have to suffer for it.
Delilah, I trusted you and you deceived me. But I promise to you this day that I shall have my revenge upon you and your people.
The Philistines laughed as they bound Samson with chains. One of them took a hot iron from the fireplace and held it up to Samson's face.
It will be hard to seek revenge, Samson, if you're unable to see us.
The men blinded Samson and carried him to Gaza, where they placed him in prison. Chained to a large wheel, he labored day after day, grinding wheat and corn into flour. The Philistines gathered together in a great hall to celebrate the capture of Samson. All of the lords and ladies were there, and Delilah sat among them. The air was filled with drunken laughter and singing, while sacrifices were offered to their god Dagon. One of the Philistine lords called out to the crowd,
Let's send for Samson so we can all see this great warrior.
The entire crowd began calling for Samson.
Samson! 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 Samson!
After some time, a young boy led Samson into the building. The weeks of hard labor had taken their toll of him, and dressed in rags, he looked weak and pitiful. Again, someone yelled from the crowd,
Is this the mighty Samson we have heard so much about? The boy looks stronger than he does.
Samson was led to the center of the room, and the Philistines continued to laugh at this once powerful man, who now looked like a ragged beggar. But they did not notice how long Samson's hair had grown during his many days in prison. Samson bent down and softly spoke to the boy who was leading him.
I've been told there are 2 pillars which support this entire building.
They're in front of us, Samson.
I am very weary. Lead me to the pillars so that I may lean against them. Then you may leave. I will not be needing you any longer.
The boy did as he was commanded. Samson rested his body against the 2 massive pillars, while the Philistines continued to mock him.
Look at the poor man! He can hardly even stand!
Samson raised his sightless face to the heavens.
Oh God, remember me, I pray, and strengthen me only this once, that I may be avenged for my 2 eyes. Let me die with the Philistines!
Then Samson pushed on the pillars with all the strength he possessed. A Philistine priest, who was closely watching Samson from nearby, suddenly cried out,
Look, the pillars are moving. Quick, somebody stop him!
but they were too late. Samson gave a final thrust, and the pillars came tumbling down. Within an instant, the ceiling and walls began to crumble, and with a deafening roar, the great building collapsed, destroying all who were beneath it. Finally, there was silence over the wreckage of the once great structure. The Lord had answered Samson's prayer and renewed the bond of strength. The Israelites rejoiced and gave thanks to the Lord. They would always gratefully remember the man whose strength was unequaled, whose name caused enemies to tremble and friends to marvel. Samson, the mighty servant of the Lord.